Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, my name is Kanka the Great, coming at you with another YouTube worthy video. Today we're doing a video on what will happen to Ramunap wins after rotation. We're going to discuss in depth on the different cards that are available to replace some of the cards that we're going to be losing after rotation. Some cards from Oath of the Gatewatch, Battle for Zendikar, things like that that have Escalate and have choose different options are going to be lost for us. So let's get right into it. So some of the cards we lose: Mainboard. We lose a Falcon Wrath Gorger, one of the important 1-drops in the entire deck. It doesn't have haste, and the ability really doesn't matter. It's just a 2/1 vanilla for 1, and that's the only reason why we play it. And by turn 2, you can do 2 damage and keep repeatedly doing 2 damage over the course of the game. The next card we have is 1 Village Messenger. So you normally play in 4 of these in your deck, and basically it has haste. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Village Messenger. So that means your upkeep and their upkeep. So whenever they don't cast a spell, you transform it, and when it transforms into Moonrise Intruder. It has Menace, so it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, which is really good, especially against control when they only have 1 creature out, and you just keep swinging with the Moonrise Intruder to ping their life down by 2. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform Moonrise Intruder. This normally doesn't come up, but during the later game, when people have 4 or 5 mana, they start doing more than one thing, so this can come up, especially during the later games. And we lose Incendiary Flow. Now, Incendiary Flow deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. So this is a very good card, especially because it goes to the Dome. So you can, for 2 mana, you can do 3 damage to target creature or player, which is basically Lightning Strike. If you guys remember that back in Standard, but it's better because you can exile it instead. Now, the reason we're losing this card is because it's from Shadows over Innistrad, and we're losing this card for a rotation, so we'd have to replace it with something else, and I'll show you guys that later. And Collective Defiance. Now, Collective Defiance does a multitude of things. It's one of those Shadow over Innistrad cards that has Escalate. Now, what Escalate is you can pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. So basically you pay one more for each mode you choose, and you can choose all 3 modes, 2 modes, or just 1 mode. Now, target player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards. Now, normally this doesn't really come up that often, but if you do want to windfall yourself, then you can do that to reestablish a stronger hand, or to get rid of some dead cards, or if you know your opponent has searched for the good cards that they need for their combo, maybe you can windfall them. Collective Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature. Now this is a good 4 damage creature killer. It's basically Chandra's -3 ability for 3 mana, or you can escalate it for 4, and when you normally escalate it for 4, you choose 2 modes, and you choose Collective Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponent. So normally you're doing 4 to a creature and 3 to the Dome. That's the benefit of Collective Defiance. And some of the cards we lose: Sideboard, or we lose Savage Alliance, which is against the Mono Red Mirror, is probably the perfect card for the Mono Red Mirror. Savage Alliance is another one of those Shadows over Innistrad cards that you can escalate with. Now, choose 1 or more modes. I went over what Escalate does earlier. So, creatures target player controls gain trample at the end of turn. That can come up in the Mono Red Mirror when you're swinging and everyone has less toughness than power, and you can kind of get over their creatures and deal damage to them if it comes to that. Savage Alliance deals 2 damage to target creature, which most Mono Red players, their curve for 3 drops and below are all 2 toughness or below, so that's really good for that. And the last mode, which is the best mode, Savage Alliance deals 1 damage to each creature target opponent controls. Now the reason that's so good is because most mono red players, all of their creatures below the 3 curve normally have 1 toughness, so all of the 1-drops are dead, and some of the 2-drops are dead as well, like Earthshaker Kenra. And the other card we're losing is Warping Whale. Now, Warping Whale is just one of the choose ones, and this is from Oath of the Gatewatch. So, exile target creature with power toughness 1 or less. So that can come up in the mono red mirror, but it is mostly used for counters for this ability, counter target sorcery spell. And the reason why that's so good is against control when they're doing their bigger plays, or against the Return of the Second Sun decks. That's a good sideboard for that. And some cards to replace these main board options are for Falconwrath Gorger. You can just simply replace it with 4 Soulscar Mage. Now, Soulscar Mage is almost the exact same as Falconwrath Gorger. Now, Soulscar Mage in terms of stat line is the opposite, so it's a 1/2, which may be relevant in the future because it has prowess. Now, prowess, basically, whenever you cast a instant or sorcery spell, it gets +1/+1. So you cast the instant, and it gets +1/+1, and you swing with it in turn 2, and I'll show you a good combo with that. And it has this ability where if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. Now, basically what that does is it shrinks your opponent's monster down to a more sizable creature. So you can abrade, so you can shock, so you can harness lightning if you need to, so you can incinerate flow a smaller target. And it's really good for just getting, especially because it can kill gods, because gods die from -1/-1 counters because they have indestructible, but if you give them -1/-1 counters, they lose toughness, and they kind of fizzle out to the counters. And to replace Village Messenger, we'll have Built to Smash. Now, I know Built to Smash is kind of controversial, but the reason why I think it's so good to replace Village Messenger is because if you strictly replace Falconwrath Gorger with a Soulscar Mage and replace Village Messenger with Built to Smash, you can turn 1 drop Soulscar Mage, and it doesn't have haste or anything, which is okay because it has prowess. And then turn 2, you play any relevant 1-drop, like a Bomat Courier or something like that, and you play Built to Smash. And you play Built to Smash on Soulscar Mage, and Soulscar Mage gets +3/+3. Now, it also gets +1/+1 because you just played prowess, so you played an instant or sorcery. So that means it's a 5/6 swinging on turn 2. That's a fourth of their life by turn 2. Now, I think that's a very good replacement for Falconwrath Gorger and Village Messenger, because by the time Village Messenger flips, or by the time Falconwrath Gorger has gotten into an attack on turn 2, you've only done 2 or 3 damage. By turn 2, by doing 5 damage for only 2 mana, that's a fourth of their life. I think that's a very good combo to replace these cards. Now, for Incinerate Flow, we have a very simple fix. We'll just replace it with Lightning Strike. It's getting reprinted in the new Ixalan set. So, basically, you just replace Incinerate Flow with Lightning Strike, and the only downside is it doesn't exile, but the upside is it's an instant. So it's kind of a trade-off. And for Collective Defiance, I have 2 cards that I recommend. Collective Defiance is normally, I see it as a 4-mana card because you normally want to kill something and deal 3 damage. So I see it as a burn spell and a removal spell. So for the burn spell slot, I picked Flame Lash. Now, Flame Lash is a starter deck exclusive in the Chandra starter deck, the bad Chandra. The Flame Lash deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Now, it's basically the exact same thing as Collective Defiance, but it doesn't go. It doesn't go to the dome and remove something at the same time. So you have to choose one or the other. And it's 4 mana, which is basically the same price you're paying for Collective Defiance, and it does 4 damage to the dome, which is better than Collective Defiance as far as damage-wise, or it does 4 damage to a creature, which is pretty good. And the other replacement I see is Cut to Ribbons. Now, the mono red player won't be using ribbons, but if you just happen to splash black for some of the zombies, you can use ribbons if you really want to, but it's not required. The main use we're getting out of it is Cut. Now, Cut deals 4 damage to target creature. Now, Cut is basically the exact same thing as Collective Defiance, besides the burn, minus 2, basically another mana off of what Collective Defiance does. But like I said before, I see Collective Defiance as a 4 mana card, so you're saving 2 mana potentially. And cards to replace Sideboard, the Warping Whale, and the Savage Alliance is Harsh Mentor. Now, I know some of you have seen this card before, and most mono red players don't run this in their sideboard, but I think it's a very good option. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the stat lines. Now, first off, if you notice, it's 1 red and 1 colorless, and its stat line, it's a 2/2, and it has an ability. Now, what that means is it's a hate bear. Now, hate bears are 2 mana 2/2s that have an ability that does something really controversial to your opponent. It really makes them to where they have to really think about what they're doing. And with a hate bear, basically you can stop them from doing certain things. And what this does is whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. Now, the reason why this is so good, especially after rotation, is a lot of control decks are going to start using those enchantments that turn into lands, and the enchantment ability does 2 damage. So you're doing 2 damage to them over time that they're using their enchantment ability to flip the land, and then you're also doing 2 damage to them when they're activating the land. And not just the new lands that come out in Ixalan, but the old lands too. Now, the creature lands are rotating out, so you don't have to worry about those. But the new lands in Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation that do certain things when they come into play, like the Sunscorched Desert deals 1 damage to your opponent, so that's an activated ability. They deal 1 to you, and you just deal 2 to them, and you didn't even attack or block or use any of your cards or resources. That's just an automatic 2 points. And the other thing that you can do with this, besides just the lands, is for creatures and artifacts. Now, especially against this one, Harsh Mentor is especially good against the Aetherflux Reservoir deck. And what the Aetherflux Reservoir deck does is it just gains a bunch of life over a short period of time. Now, what that can do is it can allow you to, every time they gain 1 life, you take 2. Then they gain 2 life, you take 2. Then they gain 4 life, that you also take 2. They gain 6 life, you take 2. So when they keep gaining life, it seems like they're not really getting anywhere because they have to take 2. They have to double it so many times to get out of range of the Harsh Mentor to where it doesn't hurt them anymore. And our one honorable mention is Captain Lannery's Storm. Now, the reason I say this is an honorable mention is because the mana cost is so expensive. Now, you can run her in mono red, just because Ironcrop Crasher is a good 3-drop, and it's a 3/2 that has Exert, and when it exerts, you can target creature can't block. Now that's a lot better than Captain Lannery's Storm. Now, Lannery's Storm comes into the battlefield with haste, and whenever Captain Lannery's Storm attacks, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this artifact. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Whenever you sacrifice a treasure, Captain Lannery's Storm gets +1/0 until end of turn. So basically what you can do with this is you can play it on turn 3, swing with it for 2, create a treasure token. Next turn, we swing with it again, sacrifice your treasure tokens, pump it up, it goes up to a 4/1. Now you can also use those for mana. So it's basically a lotus petal. And if you don't know what lotus petals do, is you can basically sacrifice them and add 1 mana of your color to your mana pool. So that's basically just like a treasure. Now, when you sacrifice this, you can shock, you can build to smash, you can play another relevant instant or sorcery, or you can play another relevant creature on main phase 2 after you've attacked. You can curve into your Glory Bringers. You can curve better into your Chandras. And it's just a really good overall tech card. Maybe not Mainboard, probably not Sideboard for Mono Red. But I definitely see this as an honorable mention just if you wanted to have a more fun perspective. And if you didn't know, these treasure tokens look like these. This is one treasure token. I think this one is my favorite just because it's just so much gold and you can kind of see the Bombat Courier down there, like the little sphere looking thing. I can kind of tell it looks like Bombat Courier, but it's not, so I kind of like it. And it just has so many gold coins. But there's this one, which has the different shamanistic items that the new dinosaurs of Ixalan is going to have. And the last one is this closed treasure chest. And I really like this one as well, but I have to say I like the first one the best. And for Magic pre-releases, September 23rd and 24th of 2017 is the official Ixalan pre-release. You get, for your locals, normally you get a playmat, and they're offering 2 gold doubloon tokens. And basically, if you, I showed you the treasure tokens before. What those do is they're basically lotus petals, and you can add any mana to your mana pool. So these treasure tokens you can use, and they're heavy metal magic tokens, and they're actually really, really high quality. And whatever your local game store will have, they'll have their exclusive mat. But this is the mat that my local game store is offering. They had a private designer design it for us. And the reason why I want it so bad is because if you can notice, the photo's a little blurry because I took it from their website. But if you notice the monkey in the bottom right-hand corner, that's actually Ragnavan. So I use Kari Zev in my build of Mono Red Ramunap. So I really like that. Ragnavan is right there. If you enjoyed watching my video, please leave a like. If you really enjoyed my content, please leave a subscribe. I make more videos at least once or twice every week. So thank you very much, and have a great day.